Imagine we're building a new AI system that takes a raw material and transforms it into something that's more palatable for humans, but make sure it doesn't do it too much so as to ruin it. Does that sound good? Sound useful? Well, congratulations, because we've just invented the electric toaster. We need to improve the way we talk about AI, because it's not just that we overhype what AI is and what it can do. It's also that we use that term to describe a huge range of really different things. A chatbot, a recommendation engine, a medical classifier, a route planner, a code assistant, a protein folding model, a generative image tool, and if you want to be awkwardly pedantic like me, even a toaster. In plain English, AI is not one thing, and once you notice that, you start hearing the same vagueness everywhere. I hear it in business settings all the time. Lots of organisations say they want to use AI, but what are they actually asking for? Something that generates text or code? Something that classifies documents? Something that predicts risk or recommends an action? Something that plans a journey? Something that spots anomalies? Quite often they don't actually know, they just know there's some business value somewhere in that hype. And they're right, there really is. But if you don't know how to find it, you're working a bit like the underpants gnomes from South Park. Stage 1, steal underpants. Stage 3, profit. AI is touching so many parts of our lives now, and some of my friends whose judgment I really respect are angry about some of the controversies around generative AI, understandably so. If your work's been vacuumed up to train a model without your consent or payment, that's not a trivial concern. If we're burning fossil fuels to generate oceans of low-value slop, that's not a trivial concern either. But both of those objections are about some generative systems. And when some of my friends respond to this by saying they won't use AI at all, what does that mean? Because that includes healthcare diagnosis support, route planning, recommendations systems, fraud detection. They don't belong in the same moral category as AI slop. It's a bit like saying you're going to boycott all forms of transport, including bicycles, because of the problems caused by gas-guzzling cars. So when I say AI is not one thing, this is what I mean. It's one label being used to cover several different categories of system. Some of it is just deterministic automation, rules, workflows, business logic. Some of it's predictive or analytical AI, classification, forecasting, recommendation, spotting patterns in data. Some of it's perception AI, systems reading documents, recognizing speech or interpreting images. Some of it's generative or interactive AI, chatbots, co-pilots, text, image, code, audio, video generation. And some of it's decision and optimization, routing, scheduling, planning, working out a more efficient next move. And some of it's really systems orchestration, different models, tools, workflows, and humans all being stitched together into one operating pattern. Those categories can overlap. They can share some concerns, but they are not interchangeable, and they shouldn't be discussed as if they were. And that matters in business because we want to use AI as not a strategy. It's not even a proper brief. It's an unfinished sentence. The useful version is, what kind of system, doing what job, for whom, using what data, and carrying what risk, and judged by what success metric? That's the difference between shopping for intelligence in the abstract and trying to solve a real problem. And it matters in ethics as well, because blunt language can weaken a good criticism. If what you object to is exploitative training practices, say that. If what you object to is energy-intensive slop generation, say that. And if what you object to is synthetic media flooding attention markets and creative industries, then say that. Those are sharper arguments than just saying AI is bad. And sharper arguments are more useful because they give us some hope of drawing lines in the right places. I think that's why the public conversations around this often get so sticky, because people are talking about different categories whilst using the same noun. One person means large generative models used to produce endless cheap output, and another means narrow classifiers helping flag risk in a hospital workflow. Another means route planning, helping you get across town, and another means a recommendation system quietly sorting out options in the background. And everyone says AI. That's not enough language for the job. Because if you lump all of this together, you end up judging the best use cases by the worst ones. So I think a more useful way to talk about this starts with a few simple questions. First, is this generating something new, or is this classifying, predicting, ranking, planning, or optimizing? Second, what is the actual task? Third, what are the relevant harms for this category? And fourth, what would success look like in human terms? That's not glamorous, but it is more honest. And I think honesty is what this conversation needs a lot more of. Because if we talk more precisely, we get several benefits immediately. Businesses stop shopping for fog. Teams define problems before they actually buy the tools to solve them. And people stop using generative AI for jobs better suited for classifiers, or dismissing it for failing at tasks it was never designed for. Critics can direct objections at the actual mechanism causing the harm, and policy conversations get at least a fighting chance of being specific enough to matter. There is also, I think, a quieter emotional benefit here. More precise language lowers the temperature without lowering the seriousness. You can remain critical of exploitative generative AI practice. You can remain worried about synthetic media, bad incentives, and industrial slop, and still say, that's not the same conversation as every classifier, planner, recommender, or diagnostic support system. That's not inconsistency. That's just category hygiene. And frankly, technology discourse could do with more category hygiene, because the alternative is this strange oscillation where AI is either magic pixie dust or moral contamination. It'll either transform everything or everything it touches is automatically tainted. Neither of those positions helps very much if you are actually trying to decide what to build, what to buy, what to regulate, or what to refuse. It also helps with something smaller but real: the low-level guilt people are starting to feel around all AI use. I get the impression that some people feel a bit guilty if they do a Google search and it comes back with an AI-assisted answer. I don't think that's a useful feeling. I'm releasing a video in a few weeks about exactly why, but this is another sign that we've stopped distinguishing between very different kinds of tools and very different kinds of costs. In plain English, better words lead to better decisions. They help us adopt useful things more intelligently, criticize harmful things more accurately, and argue in a way that gives other people something actionable. That's the real payoff here. Not just nicer debate, better judgment. If you can say what kind of AI you mean, what it does, what it costs, and what could go wrong, you are already having a better conversation. And that's progress. So AI is not one thing. Some systems generate, some classify, some predict, some rank. If your criticism is serious, point it at the category that's actually causing the harm. So that's the argument. We need to improve how we talk about AI. And that isn't because I think language games are fun, even though they are, but because clearer language is how we decide what's useful, what's harmful, what belongs where, and what deserves trust. And if we can do that, I think we'll not only have a better debate, we'll be much better at using these systems as well, rejecting them well, and drawing lines around them well, which at this point would be real progress. That's the optimistic part for me. Once we understand these systems better, and once we talk about them better, we can apply them better. We could use them to save time, money, help people learn, help people grow, help businesses work more efficiently, and in some cases, help people live longer, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. That doesn't remove the risks, but it gives us a better chance of minimizing them and still getting the benefits. The deeper ethical conversation is still really important, and I'm planning a video series in a few weeks to discuss that. But this has to come first because we need the vocabulary before we can have the argument. If you find this kind of thing useful, hit the like button, check out my other videos, and subscribe. I'll keep trying to make these conversations more precise and less silly. Maybe a little bit silly still, where appropriate.